Welcome to the Michigan Short-Term Rentals Podcast. My name's Tony Stancato here with my co-host, Jordan Painter. What's up, man?
Living the dream every day. We had a couple busy weeks here, pre-recorded some podcasts, had probably a week and a half, 2 weeks off. And so we're getting back after it, recording some podcasts. The longer we do this, the more I love it. It's so much fun to just reach out and touch people and have an impact. So
absolutely. Well, why don't you lead us in? What are we talking about today, man? One of your favorite topics. What are we talking about?
It is one of my favorite topics, and Tony was intuitive enough this year to start off our conference with mindset. And so it really was a great way to reframe people's thinking coming into what they were about to hear and listen to. So Jason Drees came and talked to us about mindset. And interestingly, what is it? Today we're recording this on Wednesday, the week after the conference. We already received a message from somebody who's at the conference that's kind of been wishy-washy, that put an offer in on a motel. So boom, right? That's mindset. That's mindset. And so he had a lot of really good insight about the way that our brains are wired through our environment, through success and failure and everything else that I really liked. And one of the things that stood out to me that he said was that our current frame, just think of like your frame of mind. What do you think about yourself? What do you believe about yourself? What do you believe about what's possible? Your current frame is impacted by your environment. And so we're sitting there in a group, in a room full of 200 plus people that have an unbelievable mindset. And you could feel that energy the whole weekend. Nobody in that room is telling you what you can't do. We're watching David Graeber doing multi-million-dollar builds with a bunker beneath the house, all these beautiful water features, all these big things that these people are doing. So love talking about mindset. So we wanted to kind of hit that today. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, so I would say there was a few parts of Jason's podcast that really stood out to me. One of the most impactful ones for me was the lady stood up and she was asking like, hey, how do I, like, if I do it, how do I know that if I pull this lever, pull that lever, how do I know I'm going to achieve my goal? And I think that's what stops a lot of people. It's like, well, if I do that, like, and what he said was almost kind of liberating, where it was like, there is no guarantee, but it's like, also like the commitment, the decision to try to do it or to attempt to do it is actually what really matters. Deciding to do that thing, right? Like, hey, I'm going to have, like, you cannot do it without, you're 100% guaranteed not to do it if you don't actually make that decision to do it. And I think too, there's this thing where it's like, okay, well, let's say David Graeber tells me exactly what to do to, build what he's building. It's not going to be the same, right? It's not going to be the same. I'm probably not going to get the same results. Like, could it be similar? Maybe, but you'll always have different results because we all have different backgrounds, different mindsets, different, there just can't be an identical way to do it. You know what I mean? So the results are going to differ, but I could also potentially build like something way better than David Graeber. Very unlikely. But I think the biggest thing is like, don't let the fear of not getting, having a successful outcome actually be what stops you. Because honestly, sometimes the biggest thing is like getting started in a direction, pivoting and going to something better. Man, if I stuck to my own goals and hit my own goals, oh man, like God's got bigger stuff for you. You know what I mean?
He does for sure. So yeah, along those lines, it's like, we have these stories that we tell ourselves, or these things that we come to believe. And so one of the questions he asked was, what story do you believe or tell yourself when progress slows down? And I've been stuck in the same flywheel in my business for probably the last 6, 7, 8 years. And part of it's seasonal. So it's like this time of year, I'm getting busy, too busy to train somebody and bring them on. And it's, too much going on and if they don't work out. And then in the fall, kind of doing the planning for next year and getting ready, but then it's too slow to bring people on because I'm not going to have enough work for them. And then before I know it, it's February, March again, and I'm too busy. And so like I've taught myself over the years, and it's just the same mindset that goes over and over and over again, and it keeps impacting me. And he actually said, I mean, I think it's a quote everybody probably heard a million times, but it's like, what's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So yeah, it was interesting. A lot of the questions that come out of that, like what's holding you back, and you got to tell yourself a different story.
And I think it's kind of goes back to what I had just mentioned too, but one of my favorite books is called Straight Line Leadership. And one of the premises of the book is that we're in this circle. So like what you just described is you're in your circle, you're doing the loop every year, living the same thing over and over. You need to separate that circle and open it up in straight line to where you want to be. You know where you want to be. You haven't decided or committed to getting the actual outcome that you want. You know the outcome you want. You know it can be done. You might not know the exact way to do it, but you know what it is. You just haven't decided to actually do that thing.
We just turned this podcast into a therapy session. Let's go. You have to pay for coaching.
You brought it, you mentioned it. So I'm just using what you brought up as a reference. But that's the same with everybody, right? Same with dieting and all that stuff. We go up, we go down. It's like, dude, just freaking go. Where do you want to go? Quit running in the circles, straight line, A to B, baby. Let's go.
Yeah. So tell me this. So in your experience growing businesses and doing all this stuff, like what's been a mindset that you maybe brought from your childhood or young adult that has limited what you think is possible?
So the biggest, and I literally just talked about this. This is actually, I think, one of my favorite just aha moments. So I quit my job, right? When I quit my job the first time, I've quit my job twice. When I quit my job the first time, I said, my thought was, if it doesn't work out, I'm going to lose everything. Everything. That's not, I don't know if that's necessarily from my childhood or whatever. But there's always this thought, worst case, you always go worst case scenario. So, I'm at this thing, I put in 13 years at my job, right? I built up this thing. I got this nest egg. I'm comfy. It's not bad. It's comfortable. And if I try this new thing, it doesn't work out, I'm going to lose it all. I'm going to zero. And you know what happened? It didn't work out.
You're not at zero yet.
It didn't work out.
Yeah,
it didn't work out. I had to go back to work. I had to go get another job. And, between that, I was still financially, I was still in a better position than I was when I left. And I got to go travel, I got to go travel with my family for like a year. I mean, that might've been the biggest thing, was like, now we're just hooked on like cheap micro travel all year long. So always on the road, but that's probably my biggest thing, is just, I always, worst case scenario, I'm going to zero. And then if you think you go back to zero, you think it's going to be like, oh, I'm not going to be able to get it. It's going to take me the same amount of time to get it back.
So you jump ship. We tried a different business, didn't quite go how we hoped it would. What was the shift that allowed you to do that again?
Oh, because the first time you're like, dude, I left, I failed, I went back. Getting a job was like, I had like 4 or 5 offers. So in my opinion, it was like, okay, going to get another job is not actually that hard. And then I started the job and I was like, now I remember why I didn't want to be in that, in that particular industry, that type of role. I mean, I literally went right back to what I did before.
Only worse. It was soul sucking, because you went from a smaller family-owned business to corporate America.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, that was kind of the big change, was like, and then when I was like, oh, it's time to jump ship again. Done, dude. It was surprisingly still challenging to get Lindsay on board on the jumping ship the second time. But now it's like, dude, it's like, I don't know. You're like, it'll be okay. You'll find a way. People are resilient when their backs are against the wall. You'll figure it out. And the worst case scenario usually doesn't happen.
Awesome. That's great. That's good stuff. So was there anything else, any other takeaways from the mindset? I think one of the other things that stood out to me, and it kind of does go back to the current frame and how it's impacted by your environment. One of the things I've preached this to my kids forever, and I remind them all the time: you're going to be the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And that is going to be true. I don't care who you are. That is going to be true. You're going to be around people who are uplifting, who are positive, who are encouraging you, who are doing things that you thought weren't possible. Or you're going to be around people who they're drinking too much, they're unhealthy, they're not really striving to excel in their career. They're showing up, they're complaining about work and their boss and the other employees. Like, who you surround yourself with matters so much, because it's going to impact your mindset. And that's one of the reasons that we do the things that we do with the conference and the meetups and getting around people who are operating at a high level. I would not think any of the stuff that we're doing was possible with the people I was surrounding myself with 15 years ago. None of it would be possible. Getting around Tony, getting around Gary, getting around all these other people, you see how they're operating and what the potential is, was huge for me. And I think another one that's always been limiting for me for growth is like, there's certain things I'm really good at, and there's certain things that I'm not good at. And actually, I got tag teamed by Mike and Jason at the VIP dinner for a while, and talking about, like, one of the comments I made was like, for getting myself out of some of the situations I'm in with work, is like, I just suck at managing people. And I said that, and they both like, zoom, like, that's it right there. You got this belief about yourself. And so I suck at managing people, and there's things I can't do. And you think I would have learned this through working with you and Gary and Ryan and all these different people we pulled into the business. Luann, who helps me run Keystone. You think I would have learned like delegation. I don't have to be good at this stuff. I just got to be better at finding the right people. But that's limited me a ton, even with the experience I've had. So I think just being mindful of the things that you don't even see that you're causing yourself to limit. And if I hadn't, again, just being around the right people. I'm around the right couple of people, having the right conversations, and bam, it hits me in the face. So,
yeah. So what's your plan for surrounding yourself with even bigger people?
Well, I'm glad you asked.
People
asked that question.
People operating at, like, yeah. I mean, I think our mindset's pretty good, like in terms, like, I think we all have, like, Gary's very successful, right? I feel like I can be very ambitious, I've done okay by most people's standards, right? But like, who's the 10, 20x? Like, what's your plan for surrounding yourself with people that are doing 20 times what we're doing? And the funny thing is like, everybody thinks doing 20 times more than what like we're doing is like 20 times the effort. Usually it's the same amount of effort. It's just kind of what you're going after. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, so interestingly, so we just had our L10 meeting this morning. We've been trying to debate on which direction to go with getting coaching. We've done several different things in the past. It's funny. I was thinking about this the other day. I didn't go to college. I really feel like in a lot of cases, college education is overvalued. It's way too expensive. But I was thinking about it. I have paid more now in coaching and training than my wife paid at a private university, right? But I got to pick exactly what I was studying. I got to surround myself with the people I wanted. I didn't have to take a bunch of stupid classes that weren't going to benefit what I was doing. So Tony and I and Gary just made the decision. We're joining Mike Sogren's coaching program. So this podcast is being recorded probably before he's even been notified. But I think, so what am I going to do? I think the price tags on some of these coaching programs are staggering. They're very, very expensive, but it's like, what is it worth to be shoulder to shoulder with people who are 10 steps ahead of you? What is it worth to be challenged by people? So I think the biggest thing for me has always been, it's a combination of like, I'm a visionary. I've got all the ideas, but Tony can tell you, like, ask me to get one of them done, right? It's a challenge. Finishing things is a challenge. So I think the thing I'm excited about as far as like, what am I going to do? I'm going to surround myself with people that are already operating at the level. And to me, it's not about income. It's not about 10x. It's not about all that. It's about the $100 an hour or whatever that number is that I want to give to my kids. I want to be getting that back to my family and my community and serving Jesus and all that kind of stuff. And the point I'm at in my life, like I could keep doing what I'm doing and live a very comfortable life and from that standpoint be happy. But I could make some major changes and be able to devote time on things that are way more important to me than making money. And so that's the shift that I'm looking forward to, is the systems that he has.
And I don't know if you like the question I asked the other day, but I sure the hell do. And it was a question that I asked myself on the way back from WealthCon. Dude, there's something about like going on an airplane where you like, I'm too cheap. I don't pay for the Wi-Fi or anything like that. So it's like, you're just like, all you have is like a notebook and a book and all that stuff. But the question was like, if you have a goal, what would you be willing to pay to achieve it? You know what I mean? If you have a goal to make $500,000 a year, how much would you pay to make that $500,000 a year? And like we say, oh yeah, some of these coaching programs are expensive and this and that, right? And there is truth. Like, yeah, there's some good price tags on these things, right? But when I asked you that question the other day, a lot of times it was like, dude, you pay one time, if you could make $500,000 or $1 million or whatever that number is, take whatever you're making now and 10x it, right? And say, hey, what would I pay to make that? I think oftentimes you would pay 1 year's, you'd pay that first year up front. And then that really minimizes like, oh shoot, like that's actually well worth it. Right. So that's just one way to look at it. And then, I think the other thing, one of the things that stood out, I mean, they kept going to that lawyer, the gentleman that's a lawyer, and when I think they had mentioned 20%, he's using 20% of his potential. And like, hey, what if your kids came to you and said, if they only end up using 20% of your potential, how would you feel? And it's like, but one of the things, and again, this is just like one of those potential things on Facebook probably a decade ago, right? There was this guy who's like, anybody can go down in their basement and do 1,000 push-ups right now. And at this point, like I probably did maybe 100 in a day, like my entire life. And I'm like, I'm just one of those people like, oh yeah, okay, let's give it a shot, dude. Sure as shit, you go down in the basement and knock out 1,000 push-ups. It's not about like, hey, I'm not going to do it in an hour. I got it. It took me like 2 hours, I think, something like that. But it's like, oh yeah, dude, I can do it that. Like, so I think that's just a great visual representation of what people do in life, including myself, right? Where it's like, yep, 20%. I'm operating like, dude, we're operating at 20%, right? Like there is a whole lot more in the tank, man. You know what I mean? So you can do it. Just got to commit. There was that thing again, right? I took that circle, hey, A to B, I'm going to do 1,000. It wasn't like, I'm going to see if I can. It was like, I'm going to go down there and do 1,000. I just decided to go do 1,000 and it happened. So, So I think that's a wrap on this one. Just wanted to talk a little bit about mindset. At the end of the day, that's the thing that holds us all back the most, right? So I think leveling up and playing a bigger game. And I just really like I like stepping into the new unknown, being nervous and a little bit scared about going after something that's a little bit bigger than what you're used to going after. I love that. So it's not all about the money. Money's good, obviously, time freedom and all that stuff. But I just like I like Jason.
Yeah, if you set a goal that doesn't make you at least a little bit uncomfortable, you didn't aim high enough, for one. And then just to challenge everybody out there, evaluate the 5 relationships that are closest to you and evaluate, are they giving you the energy? Are they feeding you the way that you need to be fed to get where you want to go? And if they're not, doesn't mean you can't be friends. It just means you need to maybe focus on raising that level of people you're surrounding yourself with. And it has nothing to do with money, right? I can't stress that enough. It doesn't have anything to do with money. Are they feeding into the goals that you have for the person that you want to be? Period.
Yeah. And I'll say that first conference that we held, when you want to talk about being scared, like Holy smokes. I lost like 2 weeks of like sleep, literally like sleep. Like anytime I can't sleep, I go sleep on my couch and put Seinfeld on. But literally 2 or 3 weeks leading up to that conference, dude, I am getting like 3 to 4 hours of sleep, just scared out of my mind. Like never done it before. I'm kind of coordinating the whole thing. I got speakers coming in. Ticket sales are not like a given. Like, hey, just open the gates and people start buying tickets left and right. Can we have enough people in the crowd to make sure the speakers felt like it was good? And then you got the sponsors, you need people in the place for sponsors. And I mean, dude, scared the life out of me, dude.
So let me ask you a question. Which one did you lose more sleep over? The conference, the first conference, or the first short-term rental we purchased?
Dude, I think they might have been equal, but I definitely lost a lot of sleep on that first short-term rental too, man. I think the first short-term rental was probably harder. So,
yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
Opinion.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was scary. We had a lot of issues.
Yep. So, and literally, that was one of those things where you want to talk about getting uncomfortable. I'm used to having a certain amount of money in the bank, and I literally made it all go away essentially, and so we took almost everything I had and put it into that one for the time being, and that was scary, dude.
And then the roof exploded and stuff's leaking and drywall's falling from the ceiling.
Yeah. So that one was definitely nerve-wracking, and starting a new job. And I mean, I don't know if I was exactly starting, but I mean, yeah, it was crazy. So, but yeah, all good stuff, man. You level up and you get thicker skin, and then you're able to handle, the tougher challenges you take on, the even tougher challenges you're able to take on because you've already gone through those things. And I do think this industry, man, I was thinking the other day, I'm like, go through this industry. Every other industry seems like it'd be super easy, dude. I mean, because you're always getting learning and going through the fires. So,
well, think about it. The first property we did have a bunch of issues, and it took a while, but it really didn't end up costing us. We were relatively close to budget on that one. We just had a plumbing issue at our motel that was, over $20,000 to fix after everything was done, and it's like, schedule it. Get it done. It is what it is. I mean, welcome to the biz. Welcome to property.
That's what I love. I mean, that's the one good thing about doing something going through something super challenging early is, again, it makes kind of after that, our second one, the basement wall collapses. I mean, I don't think we had to pay anything for that, but too, like, I think if that would have been the first one, you're like, oh, like, dude, the basement, and it's just like, all right, let's keep going.
About that one. Yeah.
Fun industry, man. So, always a good story somewhere. But yeah, awesome. Well, hope you enjoyed this. If you did, shoot us a note. Connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Tony Stancato, Jordan Painter. Would love to connect. And until next time.